This video was brought to you by NCIX. Great technology, selection, and service.
The very first Air series case from Corsair was a popular hit, combining the dual chamber design with excellent direct airflow and enthusiast-ready internals. That was the Air 540. And since then, this cube concept has really picked up with many other entries like the Note 804 from Practical Design and some other Li & Li offerings to fuel the desire for something different. And today we're taking a look at the second chassis in the Air series. This is the Air 240, released in both black and white versions for $89 and $99 respectively. It still carries the distinct look as we saw with the original 540, but in a smaller form factor, as this would be for micro ATX and mini ATX builds. Here's a better view of really how compact this case is next to my H440 mid tower, and given the addition of that second chamber, it is obviously wider. Then the cool thing with this case is the flexibility for orientation, either standing with the window on the side, sort of your default method, or turn it for top window display that would allow internal showcase in some situations, so that's pretty cool. And plus, do you see this Corsair logo square in the middle? Well, that can be changed as well depending on the orientation, so that's considerate. Now, one thing to keep in mind because of this user-defined orientation is to be careful with placement, as the panels are plastic and can be scratched easily, and we would recommend applying the included adhesive rubber case feet right away to avoid any possible damage. There are no optical bays here at the front, just a front mesh for the main chamber with PR buttons, audio jacks, and dual USB 3 ports on the side. Behind the panel, the dust filter is built in, and here we get dual 120mm intake fans for direct airflow delivery, and on the right side there is an easily removable magnetic dust filter for your power supply and the optional fan mount to help with cooling in this passive chamber. The side window is large and revealing, with stay on thumb screws that I would love to see get standardized. However, both side panels are almost paper thin and extremely flimsy, something Corsair really needs to improve on. At the rear, we can see that clear dual chamber separation with power supply in one, along with the rear accessing storage compartment with this removable door that also has a stay on thumb screw. Very nice to see that. Behind it are 3 caddies, and actually this exterior removal works very well with the design given the compact nature of the case. But of course, it could be inconvenient in some instances, as you do have to have rear access to those drives. Following into the main chamber, we have dual 80mm mounts with 4 PCI slots, and coming to the top, the panel continues with an identical mesh to keep the design uniform. Removing it reveals a single exhaust fan with flexible mounting strips and with optional second fan placement. And here's another exterior access point for SSDs that actually utilize toolless caddies, and this installation from the outside makes perfect sense to simplify the internal cabling work. The bottom of the case, or the GPU side of the case, is also filtered with an additional fan mounting points that could potentially help with GPU cooling, but I noticed there was not enough clearance for a fan with our micro ATX board installed, so you'll only be able to utilize those fan slots at the bottom for mini ATX motherboards. Coming into the main chamber, there are many rubber grommets accommodating for both motherboard sizes. This direct airflow design is outstanding to keep your components cool, as there's nothing obstructing the air channel. 13-inch GPUs are supported, meaning there's enough clearance to install a radiator at the front if you wish, and PCI brackets are secured with a toolless clamp type system that doesn't fully secure the GPU in place, and I would prefer a more conventional method of just using, your standard thumb screws. Coming around to the back, both 3.5-inch and 2.5-inch drive cages are removable that are held in with the thumb screws that also stay with the cage. Awesome. And I love these small considerations to really simplify reinstallation. By removing the larger drive cage and the power supply, you get convenient full access to the large CPU cutout for cooler swap. Nice. Now, each cage is also quite open to avoid heat buildup, and that's an important thing to consider given these items are not actively cooled. And with the optional fan mount on the side, you can still make sure the rear chamber is well ventilated. The power supply mounts on its side, and given how much room there is, the Air 240 would have no problem accommodating really long units. And here's the finished build. The Air 240 is designed to accommodate all-in-one liquid coolers at the front only, and you could actually experiment with those fans for either intake or exhaust, depending on your temperatures and depending on the cooler of your graphics card. The top slot can only accommodate a set of fans, as there's no additional clearance for radiators. Cable management in the main chamber is cleaned up with minimal effort thanks to all these rubber grommets, but I wish there were some additional smaller cutouts right underneath the motherboard for even cleaner routing. Now, you could spend some time cleaning up the cables at the back, but since they're not on the way, it doesn't really matter unless you plan on populating that side fan on the panel. And given how close the drive cages are together, I had no problems connecting all 3 drives we had installed with a single SATA extension from the power supply. Now, I want to say that while Corsair has its issues with quality control and cheapening out on some parts like the flimsy side panels, they have sure nailed an almost perfect user-friendly design with the Air 240. Partially because of the dual chamber design, but also the right execution for all the small details that makes you preserve your nerves during installation. And aside from that, we also get excellent airflow and full dustproof design with flexible orientation and a well-utilized and efficient internal layout. Now, on the other hand, the completely flimsy side panels and not totally secure toolless PCI clamp that left our GPU to wobble doesn't reflect well on the asking price of $99 for the white version. And because of that, it just missed a damn good award, as we keep seeing these quality issues from Corsair that we hope might soon be addressed, or at least see some type of pricing reductions. But what do you guys think of the Air 240 from Corsair? I certainly feel it's a much better design than the original 540, and that shows that they're listening. And it will be interesting to see what type of changes they make on the next Air series design. So as always, thanks for watching. Make sure to leave us a like if you found this review helpful, subscribe to the channel for more similar content, and we'll see you in the next one.